and I would like us to the inquiry, the statutory rape inquiry and briefing that was done by the South African Police Service, as well as the Civilian Secretariat for Police Services. Before we begin, I would just like to ask Babalwa whether we have quorum to continue.
Good morning, Chair. Yes, we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Babalwa. Would you kindly flight the agenda for us? Thank you, Babalwa. Colleagues, this is the agenda for the day. It is just the discussion on statutory rape, or the inquiry on statutory rape, and regarding the briefing as I started. Honourable Kola Barnard.
Move to adopt, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Kola Barnard. May I have a second to that? Honourable Reverend Meshwe.
I'll second that, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend. Thank you, Honourable Kola Barnard. The agenda is then adopted as is. Babalwa, have we got any apologies for today?
Yes. The following apologies. Honorable Mawela, he's requesting to be excused early today at 10. DM Matale is attending the meeting with the PC on Trade and Industry and will be leading the SAPS delegation. The acting minister is unable to attend due to other commitments, and the minister is also unable to attend due to other commitments. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Babalwa. I just want to get clarity from you. Who is leading the delegation from the ministry, and who is leading the delegation from the South African Police Service?
DM Boshielo, she's in the meeting, Chairperson. She's going to lead the delegation.
Perfect. Thank you very much. DM Boshielo, I will give you an opportunity to also maybe say something before we begin. I just want to set the table for us before our discussion begins, and I will obviously then open the floor to the members as well. I just want to refresh everyone's memories. The purpose of today's engagement is to specifically consider matters relating to statutory rape that falls within the committee's oversight mandate, particularly those concerning policing responses, investigative capacity, victim support services, accountability mechanisms, and the functioning of specialized units responsible for investigating crimes against children. While the committee was unable to participate directly in the broader parliamentary inquiry, it remains important that we consider the role and preparedness of the South African Police Service and the Secretariat in responding to these offences and protecting vulnerable children. Members have been provided with a briefing paper. You would have all received that. The interim joint report on the parliamentary inquiry into statutory rape, as well as the different responses received from both SAPS and the CSPS to a whole series of questions that we submitted as a committee. Today's engagement provides the opportunity to obtain further clarity on matters arising from those responses and to identify issues that may warrant observations or recommendations from this committee. The information before us paints a very concerning picture. I'd like to remind you a little bit of that. The inquiry specifically highlighted the prevalence of child sexual abuse and statutory rape, significant levels of underreporting, challenges relating to mandatory reporting obligations, and weaknesses in the broader criminal justice response. The statistics provided by SAPS further indicate substantial attrition within the criminal justice system, with a significant number of statutory rape cases being withdrawn before or during court proceedings, and relatively few resulting in actual convictions. These are matters that require careful consideration and further engagement. Before we proceed, I would also like to raise a matter arising from a visit, just a surprise visit, during the past few days at the Silverton Supply Chain Management institution of the South African Police Service. And it's regarding the issues around the distribution and availability of evidence collection kits. So for clarity, just for everyone's understanding, let's give an example. If a rape occurred, whether a child or an adult, there are specific kits with which to gather evidence from that specific victim. And then you would need to have DNA collection kits with which to gather evidence from the alleged perpetrator. Now, what we've come across, and I've received reports from different members of the committee as well, that in some provinces, when we reach stations and units, many of them don't always have these kits available. And when visiting the national office, it was clear to us that kits had actually been distributed to provinces, but that there's a distribution issue. So an example, you look at certain stations, let's use something close to Parliament, in, for example, parts of Cape Town, you would go to a station that has a very high level of Schedule 8 of serious offences, and they don't really have any DNA swab or DNA collection kits. So this is just a very brief way of explaining, what we've come across, but it fits in very well with the statutory rape discussion. And given the critical role that these kits play in the investigation of sexual offences, including cases of statutory rape, any shortcomings in their availability may have a direct impact on the timely collection and preservation of forensic evidence. And this in turn may affect the quality of investigations, the successful prosecution of offenders, and ultimately access to justice for victims. I would therefore like to request that the committee considers this later on in the discussion, including this matter as part of a forthcoming oversight visit to Gauteng, with a view of obtaining a clearer understanding of the extent of the challenges and their impact to the investigation of sexual offences, including statutory rape, and the measures being implemented to address them. Following today's deliberations, the committee will capture its observations and recommendations in a report, which will be submitted to the Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities as the lead committee responsible for the parliamentary inquiry. The report will also be sent to for consideration by the NA and the Minister for Implementation. I would like to thank the South African Police Service and the Secretariat for their participation and the information provided to our committee. I trust that today's engagement will assist us in better understanding the challenges, identifying gaps where they exist, strengthening the response to statutory rape and the protection of children. With that, I would like to ask DM Boshielo, Deputy Minister of Police, to maybe just make a few brief remarks before we engage in further discussion. We will obviously open the floor for the members to comment, ask questions, etc. DM Boshielo.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you, Chairperson, and good morning to honorable members and also officials from CPS, from Civil Secretariat and SAPS. Chair, in terms of SAPS, I'm accompanied by General Sintumule, who's going to is leading the delegation of the officials, General Nkosi from DPCI, Lieutenant General Nkua, Acting Deputy National Commissioner of Support Services, Lieutenant General Dr. Zulu, Divisional Commissioner Human Resource Development, and then Divisional Commissioner of Legal Services, Advocate Chamani, Lieutenant General Mamuteti, Divisional Commissioner, Visible Policing and Operation, Major General S.J. Hankins, Acting Divisional Commissioner, Supply Chain Management, Major General R.M. Mokwali, Acting Divisional Commissioner, Detectives and Forensic Services, and then Major General A.W. Zechmeyer, Acting Divisional Commissioner, Financial Management Services, Major General Pokani, Head of Corporate Communication and License, Major General Lekele, Head Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences, General Mlaudzi, Head Forensic Science Laboratory, Major General Rabi, Strategic Management Head, and Kenel Mlambo, Parliamentary Liaison Officer, Strategic Management. And also we have delegation from the Civilian Secretariat in the meeting. So we brought this a lot of delegation because, like you said, Chair, we really are disturbed also by the increase in terms of the statutory rape. And normally statutory rape, some people don't even report it because it involves a minor. But in terms of the Bella Act, which was done to improve the Schools Act, South African Schools Act, in the South African Schools Act, it was saying that only the relatives or parents might open case against in terms of statutory rape. But in the Bella Act, at least it gives anybody to report their statutory rape. So we've seen 13-year-olds being pregnant, 14-year-olds being pregnant, and 15 years old being pregnant. Unfortunately, the parents normally would not report, and also the neighbors or where they go to church or whatever, because as we go on addressing this issue, we ask that if you see an 11-year-old pregnant, why don't you raise the matter with us and all other things? In the rural areas, it's even worse because sometimes you'll find that the parents talk among themselves and then promise each other money, and then as a result, they don't open the case. But I've brought this delegation so that they can be able to answer questions from members, and we'll try as much as possible to also listen to your advices so that we can be able to deal with this issue. It is a thorn also for us as SAPS. Thank you very much, Chairperson. And General Sintumule will lead in terms of the presentation.
Thank you very much, DM. DM, I don't know if it's a way of giving us or subliminal messaging, but I see on your profile photo, it says Limpopo Legislature. I hope you're not planning to leave us.
Chair, I think you must drink your coffee. I'm not going anywhere. I'm stuck with you.
Good. Thank you, DM Boshielo. I would like to open the floor. I've already noted the hand of the Honourable Skhosana. May I please also then see a show of hands for us to engage. General Sentumule, welcome to you as well. I will obviously give you the opportunity to help facilitate response. So I've seen the hands of the Honourable Skhosana, the Honourable Matthys. Welcome back, Honourable Matthys, Honourable Reverend Meshwe, and I will list the rest as they go up. As per usual, let's use the 5 minutes and then take it from there. Honourable Skhosana.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to colleagues and all protocol observed, to the Deputy Minister. Though I want to raise my concern once again, the issue of the acting minister, that these matters are of national importance. This issue of sending apologies, Chair, it's a norm now. And once upon a time, it was embarrassing that we had to turn back the team from SAPS, and indeed, we need to, as well as a committee, I understand not that perhaps we are undermining the Deputy Minister, but we need the acting minister in this meeting, Chair. It must be very clear. It should not be the other way around. And the issue perhaps today that the acting national commissioner is not in as well. we have the delegation of the high profile top management. We are fine with that, but in the future, Chair, let's try to really address this matter of apologies, because we know this meeting, no, not yesterday as well, and this meeting is important. There's other meetings which the minister is attending. This meeting as well is very important. It should be noted. And the deputy minister said there's a General Litswalo, if I heard it well, if I heard it very, very well, because this issue of general sometimes is confusing, because we only know that there's one chair general. You know, we know that there's lieutenant generals and major generals, but Litswalo, because when I look at the participant, I'm not even sure, you know, but that's by the way, you know, it's not like a big issue for me. But the issue is that we are clear that there's lieutenant generals, you know, top management here, and hopefully we'll have a nice meeting today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Skosana. The Honourable Matthys.
Thank you, Chair. Are we just doing opening remarks? Because I don't have opening remarks. I wanted to speak. Oh, sorry. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Deputy Minister, and the officials.
Welcome back, Honourable Matthys.
I haven't been gone for that long, and I think you can add some time on my clock, because this is something that is very close to my heart, and it should also be for all of us.
I've given you an extra minute, Honourable Matthys.
Oh, how graceful of you. Thank you, Chair. Chair, thank you, and thank you, Deputy Minister, for your opening remarks in this regard. The statutory rape matter cannot be reduced to family and friends and neighbors opening cases. The truth of the matter is, Deputy Minister, that these kids are falling pregnant, the children in particular. So let's park the matter of those that don't result in pregnancy. Those kids give birth, they attend government schools, they attend clinics, and they give birth in public hospitals. Their primary respondents in government is firstly the Department of Education, government. The second is the Department of Health, where they would give birth, or even go for prenatal care for those who actually do. But there's actually a long list of kids that go to the Department of Health. They utilize the clinics for prenatal care before they even get to the hospitals, Deputy Minister. The third one is the Department of Social Development, because those kids can't leave the hospital without having engaged with the social worker. So when we come here and we use culture, when we use that families are not protecting the children, let's park that. What is the government doing? Because these kids are encountering, those that are pregnant are encountering all the government institutions that are not doing anything about it. It cannot be that year after year, Chair, that we have these horrific stats of children. I'm just talking about those that give birth because there's evidence. There's a procedure called DNA testing, even before the child even gives birth, where we can determine who the father is. The Deputy Minister likes using that example of that Limpopo child that gave birth on Christmas Day and gave the wrong name. And then they had to let someone go. It can't be the child's fault that an investigating officer couldn't get correct information and that DNA was not done. And then we must park the whole issue of the police acting, the Department of Social Development acting, the Department of Education acting. All this government is doing is saying to the kids of this country, we are not going to support you in your constitutional rights to be protected. And I can tell you now, this report that we're going to get from SAPS is going to tell us exactly that. Everything is going to be deflected and it's going to be blamed on families that don't want to open cases, because I have never heard of any crime called even murder where a family can decide whether or not a case must be opened or not. Because that's what we have reduced our girl children to in this country. We have reduced them to whether the family, whether the community wants to protect them. Rape is not just a normal offense. It's an offense just like murder. And the SAPS, the police, about SAPS and police is the same thing. Health and education must all do the same thing. When they see a dead child in school, do they decide, oh, I must not get involved, it's a family issue? No, it doesn't happen. But we can do that to girl children who are giving birth, who are unable to protect themselves. It's shameful. It's extremely shameful. Because that's all we hear time and time again about the responses to child rape. And everyone here should be disgusted if that is the report that we are going to get, where we're going to blame families for not opening cases, where we're going to blame the teachers who are too scared because they don't want to get involved, and we're going to blame social workers who don't want to go and report it. It's a matter of 3 departments working in synergy and making sure that they go and investigate. There's DNA. This is the most easiest thing. Let's not even talk about those that do not have a child as evidence of statutory rape. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Matthys. And then go to the Honourable Reverend Meshwe, followed by the Honourable Muela.
Good morning. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, officials, DM Bushilo.
Honourable Muela.
Hey, Chair, I'm sorry, man. I need to get clarity because I see that we're already on discussion.
Yeah, me too.
And we're supposed to be having the presentations from the police side before we can go to the discussions. I don't understand. I'm getting lost because now we're deep into discussion without having to get the presentation from the SAPS. Can you please just clarify me on this one, because I'm getting lost in the meeting. I think we'll have to get presentation and talk to the presentation. That's when we'll come in as members, interrogate or make inputs to the presentation that could have been presented, which have been sent to us as members. And we perused, we understand where we're standing in terms of the concept. I don't understand, Chair. Maybe I'm lost. Can you please clarify me? If
I will come to you now, Honourable
Yes.
Muela. Honourable Reverend Meshwe.
Thank you, Chairperson. That was also going to be my question, what Ms. Honorable Muela has just asked, that I will not get in the presentation first, but because I have an opportunity, I will ask a question based on what DM Bushielo reminded us of. And that is, according to the School Act, only parents and relatives can report statutory rape. Now, this does not make sense. I think the rape of children is so serious that every person who is aware of the rape of a child must report that crime. Relatives and neighbors do see what's happening with children when parents are at work. But now to limit the reporting of such rapes to parents and relatives, it does not make sense. So I want to know from DM Bushielo whether the police have engaged the education minister and the department about this issue, and why would they say in the act that only parents and relatives should be the ones to report statutory rape. Now, if a child is raped in the morning when parents just left for work, should the child be left alone during the day and suffering the humiliation, the pain, and other things? And that is my question. And why, if the police have not engaged them, why? Why not? Because it should be everybody's responsibility in the country that when you see a child being sexually abused or raped, you need to report that to the police. So has the police, has the ministry engaged the Department of Education and tried to prevail on them to change this clause, which does not make sense, that only parents and relatives should report rape? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Reverend Meshwe. Colleagues, I just want to say that I thought it fit, I'll come to you now, DM Poshelo, that there be some remarks regarding all the reports that were sent and everything, and questions to ask Honourable Moela. It's not that there's no presentation or something to be done, but I understand completely. So let's, if it's okay with you, go straight to the presentation from where we can engage further. I just thought with the fact that it was a whole inquiry that we could, have introductory remarks, comments and questions. Diemboshielo, are you fine with that? Can we go to the presentation?
Yeah, before we do, Chair, I just want to correct Referent Mishwe. I said the issue was corrected in the Bella Act when they said in the Bella Act that anybody can be able to report. It was in the SASA, South African Schools Act. So when the Bella Act was promulgated, it was there that anybody can be able to do that. And then also, Chair, I think we come here in good faith and we all are concerned. So I think it is very, very unfair, for members or colleagues to me to say that we are not serious or not doing this and whatever before we even present anything. I think it's just very, very unfair, if not maybe personal. Can I also give you then the delegation that we have in terms of this CSPS? We have DG Sibui leading the delegation, and then Mr. Amaru, the DDG for Civilian Oversight and Strategic Partnership, Ms. B. Omar, acting DDG Policy Research and Legislation, Ms. N. Matlangu, acting the Chief Director, Civilian Oversight, Monitoring and Evaluation, and the one who will also be doing the presentation in terms of the Civilian Secretariat, Ms. M. Papudi, Acting Chief Director, Policy Development and Research, Ms. I.P. Lidwaba, Director, Executive and Parliamentary Support Services, and Mr. T.P. Maketa, Office Manager, and Ms. M. Tselani, Deputy Director. So these are also the delegation from the Civilian Secretariat. As I said, Chair, is because of the seriousness of the issue and our understanding. Secondly, we have signed an agreement with the Minister of Education, if you remember, Chair, where we agreed to work together and make sure that this kind of thing are kept in their early ages. So that memorandum is still standing and we're working according to it in terms of what we need to do. What we have not pursued further, which I think will be part of your recommendation maybe as the committee, or what we have seen as a gap, is the Department of Health also coming along, because social development also comes along as we do these other things. The Department of Health, I think, also maybe have to come clearer and make sure that they assist us to make sure this problem is solved. It is in our best interest to make sure that our children are safe and not subjected to rapes and murders and all others. So that's why even the delegation, as I said today, we brought everybody so that by the time we end here, we know exactly where our gaps, where we should improve, what we should do. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, DM. Honourable Matthys.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think the DM should go unresponded to on comments that were made that this is personal. It is a very personal matter for all the children, and the girl children in particular, that give birth in school or in our public hospitals year after year, day in, day out, and nothing is done of it. But to reduce closing remarks that it's a personal attack on anybody, there was nothing personal. Everything that was spoken about is factual. Some of us have already gone through that report. We don't wait for presentations here to be able to do that. Some of us already know who the first respondents are. government respondents. That's why we are able to explain the whole process. So we must not be reduced that we don't know what we're talking about and we are personally attacking anybody. Chair, and it's not fair. We are allowed to make comments. Yes, we are all here in good faith, but we're also here to hold the departments and all the departments actually. And today we are just dealing with the South African Police Service. And they are here, and we must hold them accountable, and we can't be told that we are attacking when we are speaking facts. Thank you, Chair. But I will
Thank
go
you.
through and listen to the presentation again, which is something that we've been having for year in and year out, and there's no improvement to the prosecution of statutory rape that results in pregnancy, and that is a fact.
Thank you, Honourable Matthys. I go to General Sentamule to start and introduce the presentation process for us, from where we will further engage in discussion. General Sentamule.
Chair, before General Sentamule, I've raised my hand. I just wanted to say, if you allow me quickly, Chair, is that no one is going to attack anyone. You know, we are frankly in a discussion, in a meeting of a very important, you know, the issue of rape is a very, you know, it's close to some of us, to our hearts, because of the experience we had in our families as well. And indeed, it's a very important thing. No one is being intimidated here. We're going to have a civil meeting, you know, like we have our normal meetings. But this matter is a very serious matter, and let's be free, all of us, and help our communities, in particular, women and girls. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Skosana. General Sentamule.
Thank you very much, and greetings to the Honourable Chairperson, all the Honourable Committee members, Deputy Minister Dr. Bushielo, DG Sibuyi and the team, General Ngosi, the Acting Head of DPCI, Acting DNC for Support Service General Nkua, and all the colleagues in attendance in this meeting. Chairperson, before I proceed, I would also like to submit that the Acting National Commissioner is currently attending a cabinet meeting that is addressing the whole of government approach in relation to the xenophobic attacks. And for that reason, she and General Musekidi will not be with us today. And Chair, moving forward, noting the comments that were raised by yourself, DM Bushielo, and the committee members, we will start by acknowledging that statutory rape represents a profound violation of children's rights and bodily integrity. It is a crime that leaves lifelong trauma for victims and erodes trust in communities as well as families. And in that regard, it demands a decisive victim-centered response from law enforcement in its entirety. This is also where we are saying it requires your whole of government approach, particularly the departments that are responsible, like your DSD, as well as education and health departments. Chairperson, I'm also noting your comments in relation to your observations made by your visit in Silverton, and I'm sure that it will be covered as we do the interaction after the presentation. Without further ado, Chairperson, please allow me to invite General Leon Rabi to take us through the SAPS presentation on our report as asked by the Portfolio Committee. General Rabi, over to you. Thank you, Chair.
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable members of the committee, the Honourable Deputy Minister, and the senior representatives of both the South African Police Service and the Civilian Secretariat. Chairperson, if I may be allowed then to stand on the protocol that has already been established. Honourable Chairperson, the presentation that we will be doing today is based on the initial report that we submitted, and this briefing provides a comprehensive overview of our approach to statutory rape within the broader context of GBVF and child protection. It sets out how the issue is prioritized in SAPS planning, how cases are operationally managed, and what outcomes are being achieved. Importantly, it also highlights systemic challenges, particularly around reporting investigation, and prosecution, and outlines the key interventions aimed at improving the protection of children and strengthening the justice outcomes. In terms of the content, the presentation focuses on both policy and operational dimension. It begins with statutory rape as embedded in SAPS strategic plan and APP and aligned to legislation such as the Sexual Offences Act and the Children's Act. It then moves to practical challenges, particularly under reporting, operational protocols, and enforcement issues. Finally, on this slide, it considers performance, including case volumes, investigation outcomes, and where cases are lost within the criminal justice value chain. It also includes, as a second part of the briefing, focuses more on implementation capacity. This includes safeguarding procedures for victims, the role and resources of FCS units, forensic support, and extensive training programs. It also looks at how cases are recorded, tracked, and monitored, and concludes with oversight and accountability mechanisms to ensure quality investigations and timely case prosecution. Statutory rape is not treated as a standalone issue, but is fully integrated into the GBVF action plan for the period 24 to 29. This informs both the SAPS strategic plan for the same period and the annual performance plans that are developed on an annual basis, ensuring alignment between policy, planning, and operation. The focus is on measurable outcomes, particularly improving detection rate for crimes against women and children, strengthening forensic leads such as DNA and fingerprints, and ensuring timely resolution of service complaints. This ensures that statutory rape is embedded within the broader performance management and accountability systems of the South African Police Service. The next slide, the SAPS approach aligns closely with the National Strategic Plan on GBVF through 6 pillars. The 6 pillars include strong regulatory compliance and oversight, continuous capacity building of members, victim-centered policing approaches, improved data systems for case tracking, community-based prevention initiatives, monitoring and evaluation mechanisms. Now, together, these pillars ensure that statutory rape is addressed through a comprehensive, system-wide approach rather than isolated interventions. On the next slide, implementation is driven through structured coordination and accountability mechanisms across the SAPS. Prevention is emphasized as the most critical element, requiring participation beyond the South African Police Service, including communities and other government departments. At the same time, the response component ensures a structured approach to investigation and victim support. Importantly, research and continuous evaluation are used to improve effectiveness of interventions over time. Chairperson, I'm not going to repeat the questions as they are highlighted as the slides of the title of the respective slides, and they're structured according to the initial report that we submitted. Now, the first part deals with underreporting. As the Deputy Minister already stated, underreporting remains a significant concern, particularly in vulnerable communities. To address this, the South African Police Service uses multiple community engagement platforms that includes community policing forums, faith-based organizations, community in blue initiatives, as well as GBV brigades and public imbizos. These platforms are aimed at building trust, raising awareness, and encouraging victims and communities to come forward. Still on the issue of underreporting, it is strengthened through multi-sectoral coordination. SAPS participates in a number of national forums, including statutory rape task teams and intersectoral committees that are being led by Justice, Health, and Social Development. These structures ensure that a coordinated response, improve information sharing, and allow for integrated interventions across the justice system. Despite these efforts, several structural barriers remain in terms of the reporting of these incidents. These includes And Honourable Deputy Minister also made reference to these cultural norms that normalize harmful practices, fear of stigma and victimization, financial dependence on perpetrators or their families, reluctance among professionals to report cases, low trust in the criminal justice system. These factors, as I have just mentioned, significantly limit reporting and undermine enforcement of mandatory reporting obligations. The protocols that is guiding our response to these, following the Constitutional Court ruling, the SAPS has adjusted its operational approach to ensure that consensual activity between minors is not criminalized. This is supported by updated national instructions and training of members, ensuring compliance with law while still protecting children from exploitation and abuse. The overlapping of conflict between the two acts. In practice, Honourable Chairperson, there is no conflict between the Children's Act and sexual offences legislation. SAPS has clear internal directives that guide members on how to apply both these frameworks, ensuring legal clarity and consistency in the handling of cases involving minors. Chairperson, on the next slide, we are providing some statistics on cases that have been reported over the past 5 years. The data that is displayed on the screen shows significant variation across provinces with high case volumes in KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape State. Numbers of cases are before them. There is collection from the convictions is stand very on the screen. Moving to the average turnaround time from report to arrest, there is no standard turnaround time for these cases. Investigations vary depending on complexity, ability of forensic evidence, and coordinates to these outcomes over a period. On the same topic, there are untrusted person uses a brought forward system to ensure that undetected and inactive cases removed from the court roll are also monitored until outstanding issues. Safeguarding that of a structured safeguarding includes the following systems with the safety of evidence. Officers, Honourable Chair, like trauma invisible and sensitive to the needs of being that are reflecting General Mulhoden's and his statistics in this regard, but for the purpose of the integrated into SAPS basic training program. This ensures a victim of such a crime. Significant information made available for a training that we
within our own ministry. The SAPS amended the relevant national instructions, including the National Instruction on Domestic Violence, and that is now addressing the matters of reporting. On the policy evaluations or situational analysis that have been conducted, we have undertaken an assessment of the implementation of the SORMA with a specific focus on the efficiency and the effectiveness of the family violence, child protection and sexual offences that are commonly known as the FCS units. We assessed how they are able to respond to the cases of statutory rape. Now, on the CSPS role in monitoring the SAPS contributes to monitoring the SAPS implementation of the National Strategic Plan on GBVF, particularly focusing on Pillar 1, that is on accountability, coordination and leadership, and Pillar 3 on justice, safety, and protection. The key activities that the department undertakes is the ongoing monitoring of the Domestic Violence Act. And let me also indicate that this includes the perusal of dockets that have been opened that are domestic violence related. We also assess the detective policy. We'll host and coordinate public dialogues and crime prevention initiatives. We also have a collaboration with our MOU partners, and we also contribute through monthly reports. We report to the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. On public education and awareness initiatives undertaken, these are taking place through GBVF awareness campaigns. These awareness initiatives are taking place through campaigns. Ourselves together with our MOU partners, for example, Memeza Shout as well as aware.org, we provide victim support and educate the public, including children, about their rights as victims of crime. And this includes their right to inform an elderly person in terms of any act that is suspected to be a common law offense or an act that makes the child not to be comfortable. We also conduct case close campaigns where members of the public are encouraged to bring forth their cold cases for the cases to be reopened and investigated. On public complaints on child secondary victimization, the department doesn't receive a lot of these particular complaints. However, in the recent past, we have received a complaint about a police station here in Gauteng. Honorable Chair, if I am allowed, I will not mention the name of the police station or the victim so that we can be able to protect the victim. The complaint was that the police did not assist the complainant, who was the mother, to immediately open the case and have the necessary interventions for the child. The department then intervened and also escalated the matter to the district commander, who immediately acted on the matter and ensured that the case receives the child receives psychosocial support before they can go back to school. Honorable Chairperson, this is our submission as the Civilian Secretariat for Police. I thank you.
Thanks, Chair. We submit.
Thank you, DG. Thank you, Ms. Mhlanga, as well for your presentation. You can then open the floor for remarks and discussion. Already noted the hand of the Honourable Kola Barnard. And as you put up your hands, I will continue to note them, the Honourable Mokoena as well, Reverend Meshwe, and so on. Honourable Matthijs, I see you too. I will list them. You can keep putting up your hands, and we will then give the relevant opportunities for everyone to have their questions answered. I just want to ask that if something is not answered, please make a note of it, as I always say, and then we can come back to it to ensure that everyone does get the relevant answers. Honourable Kola Barnard.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. I think, first of all, I'd like to thank the SAPS for the way in which I believe they are dealing with this incredibly difficult matter. I'd like to know, and I'm not sure who would respond to this, but what is the SAPS theory on why the cases of statutory rape are withdrawn? It seems there are a large number. I mean, I know from the adult side, a beaten wife will often give in and withdraw the case, give in to pleas or threats on the part of their partner. And then they withdraw the case, although that has to some extent been stopped. But with the child, who withdraws the case and why? What are the possible reasons for doing so? I find that almost inexplicable. And why is it allowed? Why do the SAPS allow a case of statutory rape and a report to be withdrawn? Please fill me in on that situation. Look, you have indicated that statutory rape is addressed through various frameworks, but what specific interventions or indicators are dedicated in what you present exclusively to statutory rape? Is there something specific we can look for in terms of figures? And how then do you assess whether what you're doing is succeeding? Is it reducing underreporting? Is it actually reducing statutory rape? I don't think so. So how do you measure your success or otherwise of your various programs? And you know, it's terrifying to see that you identify educators, healthcare workers, and caregivers as the people most likely not to report a case. What's your assessment there? It's almost impossible that people in positions of power, in terms of children, their teachers, the healthcare workers, and people who actually care for them on a daily basis, are the ones keeping it quiet, or are they the ones committing the statutory rapes? What is the story behind this? Are they there to protect rapist teachers? Is that why they're withdrawing the case? Is it on the parents insisting they withdraw it? I don't know. If you could just fill us in there. And then are there any cases against these people that you claim failed to comply with the mandatory reporting obligations? I mean, is anyone held to account if they fail to do so? If they know a teacher has raped 10 girls and don't report it, surely they are as culpable. And then do you have a database for statutory rape cases? I mean, are there serial statutory rapists in this country? And is it a national database in which one can see if a particular person is now replicating their heinous actions in various provinces? Or is it a province by province thing and never the twain shall meet? So that has been an issue previously, where people do things in one province and they're clean in another province, as it were. And of course, which provinces are experiencing the greatest resource pressures within the FCS units? It'd be very interesting for me to see a list of those. And do you have enough forensic social workers? I know psychologists are very short on the ground for the SAPS. What about the forensic social workers? Yeah, and also in your labs, you have indicated that the statutory rape cases are prioritized for forensic processing. How long does it take? What's the turnaround time for the DNA analysis? And how many of these statutory rape cases are awaiting forensic results? Is there a huge backlog? Because these are large numbers of these terrible events occurring. Yeah, the CSPS indicated it had not developed a statutory rape-specific policy. Surely a policy framework of that kind is required. Please explain why you think it shouldn't be done, or why you haven't done it, or when it is going to be done. Really, you need to undertake the research policy work specifically focused on statutory rape. It's endemic now in this country. It's absolutely out of control. And finally, from me, you identified weaknesses in the classification of rape cases. In what way? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Kola Barnard. I then go to the Honourable Mokoena.
Thank you very much, Chair, and greetings to your good self, to DM and honourable members. SAPS identified educators, healthcare workers, and caregivers as key group that often fail to report cases. Has SAPS conducted any assessment of the extent of the non-compliance with mandatory reporting obligations? How many investigations have been opened against persons who fail to comply with mandatory reporting obligations under applicable legislation? And then again, SAPS provided 5-year provincial statistics. Why do these figures provided appear relatively low when compared with teenage pregnancy figures and child sexual abuse statistics reported by other departments? Does SAPS maintain a dedicated national database for statutory rape cases? Again, Chair, how does SAPS measure secondary victimization and victim satisfaction? And then they indicated that statutory rape cases are prioritized for forensics processing. What is the current turnaround time for DNA analysis in the statutory rape cases? And then educational premises statistics indicated a significant number of learner victims and learner-on-learner offending. Has SAPS undertaken any focused analysis of sexual violence occurring within educational environment? What formal coordination mechanism exists between SAPS, Department of Basic Education, and higher education institutions regarding incidents occurring on educational premises? On the CSPS, why has the CSPS not conducted a dedicated assessment of SAPS handling of statutory rape despite the scale of the issue? Does the CSPS intend to undertake research, monitoring or policy work specifically focused on statutory rape? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mokoena. The Honorable Reverend Meshwe.
Thank you, Chairperson. FCS offices, we are told, are normally closed on weekends. And we know that there are many rape incidents and statutory rape incidents over the weekend. Now, if a police station does close the offices, the FCS offices, do members of the public who want to report statutory rape in particular know about the alternative? I hear that there are standby investigators. Now, where are these standby investigators? Are they at the police station itself, or do they have special offices where they can easily be accessed? But I want to know, when these FCS offices are closed over the weekend, what is done to assist the victims, particularly if the parents only know that the offices are closed, but they don't know about an alternative place they can go to, or do they just go to any church office? What's the response to that? And then the second one, about the key challenges affecting the functioning and performance of FCS units. We are told that there are certain societal norms which involve the resolution of cases away from the criminal justice system. Now, in this instance, obviously, there are discussions and debates or even arguments. But what I want to know is, who has the final say in determining whether the case that is being looked at should be resolved away from the criminal justice system, or it should be taken to the criminal justice system? Because we know that there are many times, the perpetrators will hide behind societal norms and try to solve the problem themselves as families. So who has the final say? And my last question has to do with rape of minors, whether at school or at home. When the children attend the same school, the common practice is to remove the girl child, the victim, from that school, transfer the child, they say, for their protection, to another school. Now, I want to understand the reasoning behind that. Why should a victim be removed from a place that they are familiar with and not the perpetrator? Because many times the perpetrators are allowed to continue with their studies when the victim has been removed from school. So what is the motivation and the main reason why preference is to remove the victim, the girl child, and not the rapist, the boy who did the damage? Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Meshwe. Honorable Matthijs.
Thank you, Chair. I don't even know where to start, quite honestly. I don't share the sentiments of Honorable Colin Barnard that SAPS is doing a decent job regarding this issue of statutory rape. It's not, and it's evidence. It's not that I'm being political or I'm trying to grandstand. It's evident by the fact that we have children that are giving birth. There is evidence, there's DNA, it's an open and shut case. I understand there might be some glitches along the way, but if you can't deal with that, there's no hope for us dealing with the issue of boy children that are being raped right now. And for those girl children or the children, actually both sexes, that are being raped that don't result in pregnancy. And that's what needs to be internalized. If you cannot deal with reported cases, Chair, they are reported, widely reported, that this is the number of 10 to 15-year-olds that have given birth. When we come here to this meeting, it would be nice to stop hearing about task teams and this task teams. There's always task teams, there's stakeholder meetings, there's committees. It would be nice just to hear of the 400 and whatever number of children between the age of 10 and 15 that gave birth. This is how many have been successfully prosecuted. And then give us the challenges of the few, but it can't be that only 2, if we're lucky, that happens. The second point that I want to raise, and I'm going to go, and I'm glad that the presentation spoke to the stats for KZN, right? There were 729 from what I saw on the presentation reported cases of statutory rape, right? It doesn't say whether it involved pregnancy or not, right? And it could involve both boys and girl children because our boy children are being raped at alarming rates as well. But in that same period, there was 421 10 to 15-year-olds that gave birth in KZN. You reported a large number of this. I don't know if this is included in the 724, and I'm sure that it's not, because it can't be that 421 children that have given birth that have DNA because they have a child, and that it's somehow we are able to track. I mean, we might not be able to track every single person that raped these kids off, but it can't be such a significant rate. So I'm speaking to the fact, and we must accept that. We must not be defensive about the fact that SAPS, the Department of Social Development, the Department of Health, and the Department of Education are not protecting the children of South Africa. We are leaving it to families to do it, and we come here and we say that families are not acting on it. I would like the police to tell us what happens when a person is murdered in a family. Does the child go and does the family go and decide whether they want to open a murder case or not? Do the two families go together and then discuss some sort of settlement and then the police accept it? No, it doesn't happen. What happens when someone fails to report a crime? What are you doing? Because you see these kids, they're in government spaces. Everyone has taken some sort of oath, whether you're a social worker, whether you are working in a hospital, whether you are a teacher. You have taken an oath to protect these children. You're not reporting the crime. What is the police, what is SAPS doing about it? Because it's also a criminal offense not to report a crime. There's just been no engagement, and maybe we should start off with that. And I would have liked for us to see a report here that's saying, let us even just start off with all these children that are giving birth, and let's start prosecuting them and having a plan for that. Because every other report that's given here, we have heard it over and over again. Most of it is just copy and paste. All the challenges, we have heard it before over and over again. It doesn't even just apply to statutory rape. We know the challenges of the courts, but when you have a child, you have DNA. It cannot be that we are still struggling to prosecute statutory rape. I also want to understand, how is it that the whole of South Africa knows how many 10 to 15-year-olds are given birth, because it's reported widely, and it's only SAPS who does not know? Because your job is not to sit there and wait for people to come and open cases. No. Unless that has changed and I don't know about it. But it's only the South African police services that do not know that there, in KZN, between 2025 and 2026 financially, 421, but it's all over and you haven't done anything about it, because your report should have included. There was a report, we went to the Department of Education, we went to the clinics, we got the list, this is how far we are with it. That is a government and a police service that is protecting our children, and that's what should happen. And my last closing question here is on, I think I'm covered. So no, sorry, just one more on the issue of evidence, right? And one of my colleagues also spoke to our forensic labs, but we've been getting reports time and time again here in this committee that you prioritize the processing of that of DNA in that regard. Can you also be able to provide with us how many, when a child is pregnant, how many has it been done, and how often is it done, that the DNA process of the unborn child is processed? Because that is also going to tell us how serious we are about prosecuting these rapists who are raping our children. And they're doing it so repeatedly because there is no action, deliberate action, a deliberate step on dealing with it, even to an extent where they can even go and have children, they can even go to the families and go and pay damages. It's just shameless that this is going on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Matthys. Honourable Schikkerling.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think, I've been mostly covered by a lot of my colleagues, but in my experience of visiting FCS units, although they say they are resourced with 97% personnel, it is my observation that this is not completely correct. When I do get there and I do oversight, there might be a full complement of officers, but they don't have enough vehicles. And then their vehicles are not suited to the terrain either. And the vehicles have got 400,000 kilometers on. And these are vehicles like Corollas. Now, in a province like the Northern Cape, we only have a few FCS units. So what often happens is, let me just use an example. Hartswater is 130 kilometers from Kimberley. Oftentimes, the cases are obviously opened at the police station, and then the docket is handed over to an FCS unit or FCS inspector. Then they have to travel. Then they have to go fetch the victim and, have a discussion with him. And there's no vehicles available. So they have to wait. And that means that the victim is technically sitting at a police station waiting for somebody to come and assist them. And I don't think that is necessarily fair. I mean, we have one Tutuzela Care Center in Kimberley, and a lot of those victims have to be brought here. And it is very difficult for them. Something that was also quite shocking to me was that the detectives that work for the FCS, and I agree with my colleague about them only being open on a Monday to a Friday, and I know that they have somebody on standby over a weekend. But surely we can look at the system and perhaps change this, because really the majority of rapes take place from a Thursday to a Sunday when you only have people on standby. So if they do go and they report the crime, and then the officer is called out, and the docket is then handed over to that FCS detective, sometimes it takes them a number of days before they start investigating the crime, because they just have too much. There's just too many cases to investigate. So they are under-resourced. And a real concern that I have is members that work for the public order policing they get overtime for all the work that they do. The members in the FCS units do not get overtime. And these are people that are literally where the tacky hits the tar, where they're going to go and investigate crime and look after somebody that has been sexually abused and investigate these crimes. But we're not looking after these detectives. And why are we not doing that? It is really a massive concern that I have. People really wait for too long. And then I'm glad that General Moalutsi is on here, and I must thank him. He's always very helpful when I call him. But there's a massive backlog in South Africa, and I would like them to tell us what the backlog currently is, if they can, and then how they are working to remedy this backlog. Because a majority, and I go to court quite often to listen, a majority of cases are then closed or undetected or set aside because the DNA results are not available. And then that poor family has to go back month after month after month to go and find out what's happening with their case. And oftentimes these DNA results are actually uploaded onto the system by the forensic science lab. But because the detectives are so overburdened, they don't have chance to go and actually draw the information off the system. So there must be a better way of communication about this. Surely there can be, instead of just uploading it, there can be an email sent to the commander and say, listen, we've uploaded the following DNA. Can you please go and have a look? Or there must be a dedicated person that goes and actually attaches these DNA results to dockets, because it can never be fair that people have to wait for so long. And then, Chair, I would just like to know, I know that the Civilian Secretariat has before spoken about the police that don't implement the Domestic Violence Act properly. And I've experienced that myself. And again, I want to come back and say, I know of detectives that have gone out. And again, Honorable Matthys also mentioned it, that money is exchanged and then cases are not opened, and these poor victims are left basically to fend for themselves, because a lot of times victims of these crimes are people that are young children whose families are actually reliant financially on the perpetrator. And I mean, that's horrific to think that you allow your child to be sexually abused because you have financial gain. Why is the police not arresting these people? It is really a concern. And Chair, I know my time's up. I just have a last question. I know that the detectives in the FCS also struggle to get the J88 forms back from the state hospitals. Can there not be a conversation between the SAPS and the Department of Health to ensure that the J88s are completed immediately and a copy made and immediately handed over to the detective to go and put it into that docket? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Honorable James.
Thank you so much, Chair. Okay, my questions are very direct, and I'd like for someone to write down all my questions because I don't want to come back and repeat it. I want to ask firstly, how many cases of neglect has been opened up where children are involved, right? How many children in conflict with the law, cases of children in conflict with the law has been opened? I want to ask social crime prevention awareness programs. How many programs have...
Honorable James, I'll give you 30 extra seconds. Just ask him it's slightly slower, that we make sure everything is listed. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Okay. I want to ask, how many cases of neglect has been opened up, right, against parents for failing to report that their children has been sexually violated? How many cases of children in conflict with the law has been opened, has SAPS recorded? How many social crime programs have you had in schools and with other possible partnerships, right? Are you in contact with hospitals? Because the records at the hospitals would sometimes reflect that 100 children has given birth, minors, and SAPS would have 0 cases to reflect that type of crime. Also, 837, sorry, Chair. Also, 837 rape cases has gone, the victims of 837 rape cases have disappeared. SAPS cannot find them. I want to understand How is that even possible? And I want to understand, of these 800 odd cases, how many are cases of where children were raped, right? I want to ask and understand, because sometimes when we're sitting with these victims at these police stations, what is the response time for FCS unit to respond to these cases? Because there are times you sit at that police station for 4 and 5 hours where the Victim Empowerment Center is closed. I want to ask, how many places of safety for temporary placement has SAPS identified in each province where it is after hours, where they temporarily place those children once they have taken the children to a state hospital and the medicals has been completed? I want to ask, how many stations are completely 100% compliant in terms of the paperwork that is required to remove children? Most of your police stations, most of them don't know what a Form 36 is. Most of your members don't know what a Form 22 is, and they don't even know where to start getting the paperwork. So how will they respond to children that are at risk, children that needs urgent care and protection, if they don't even know the process, which is really sad? Partnership with hospital to address as well, like we wait for FCS units, the partnership with the state hospitals. Sometimes these minors go to the hospital at 10 o'clock in the evening, and they have to sit there after having waited 4 hours at the police station for FCS to intervene. They wait another 3 to 4 hours without food, without anything at the hospitals. Are you addressing this crisis and the long waiting period with the hospitals? Also, the 24-hour, your victim empowerment units at this is the few that you have. Are they operational 24 hours, or do they just work from 9 to 5 and close after that? I also, Chair, want to speak on something that I'm really vexed about: the Lentegeur intervention, where 6 children were rescued. According to the Children's Act, we know that if you fail to report, someone asked earlier on, what are we doing about SAPS who's not detecting these cases? We can charge anyone who fails to report that a child is in urgent need of care and protection, anyone who fails to report that a child is at risk, who drives past a child during school contact time and does not ensure that child's safety, can be charged according to the Children's Act. Are we charging anyone? We are not. 6 children were rescued in Lentegeur. Instead of saying to those policemen who accompanied me, right, not as my personal protectors, but to go and rescue those children, guess what the province has done? The province has departmentally charged all 6 those members, including the station commander, for actually responding according to the Children's Act, and opening up a case against me without those members even being a fraudulent case, without those members even being aware of the fact that their statements are being used to open up a case against me without their knowledge. That is what happens when we go out there and we try to protect our children. Hundreds of children are at risk on the Cape Flats being vanned. Those children will tell you what those perpetrators are doing to them in those lounges. And SAPS is not even aware on how to remove. SAPS does not even know who the social worker. SAPS is not even aware that you need a statutory social worker to enforce a removal. They'll tell you, no, we have someone at the Victim Empowerment Center that can do this. We are meant to guide SAPS. But when we do this, those very members that went, I won't even say beyond that, for the first time understood what it's like to protect children, get charged. Thank you, Chair. And I want to ask, what is going to be done about those members who are now being victimized for doing their jobs? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable James. I've noted the Honourable Sokopo, followed by the Honourable Sposana and the Honourable Shabane. Honourable Sokopo.
Thank you, Chair, and greetings to the DM and the leadership of SAPS. Fairly, Chair, most of my questions are being covered to an extent, but I have interest and I want to check whether how serious are we dealing with crime and taking these things up forward. The issue of statutory rape, Chair, if we are now told that there is no policy framework, any other thing, that will assist us to get to somewhere? Or are they even saying that they don't see a need for it? The reason I'm asking it, Chair, is because, you know, the issue of statutory rape, 70% or 80% of it's in-house. When I say in-house, Chair, I mean it happens in the family, neighborings, or closely knitted people. And it happens it's a vertical relationship. It's somebody who's really an adult, matured, doing such to a very young person who struggles, who would even struggle to explain how it had happened, depending on the age. I would have then thought, and one of the honorable members raised the matter here, where some of these things happened and the family struggles even to report it properly because the person who's the perpetrator happens to be a breadwinner. So they don't want the perpetrator to be arrested because it means that they are going to starve. And we sit here with CSPS that says they don't have a framework. They don't find other ways of making sure that they curb this thing. And looking into it, the latter of it, Chair, is that these kids would have to, whether they are boys, because it happens with boys as well, whether they are girls, they will have to grow up in a particular at some point and have to find ways of dealing with this thing. For the longest time, they don't share it with anybody. But at a particular age, because they would also have to become parents and or sexually active because they want now to be sexually active. But with all the burden that they have already, that would have been a challenge to them. They also identify weaknesses in the classification of rape cases. What impact does this have on data quality, monitoring, and oversight? Because some colleague was raising it. The first step is to know that if there is, you look at the age difference, even if they are both young, if to say, but the law is clear. If the age difference is 2 years plus, you convert that to a statutory rape. If the one is 15, the one is 18, that is statutory rape because of the age difference. I'm sure they would know better which specifically the criminal procedure, where it does it states. But I'm saying you would have expected by now that they also work with social services and so forth to find what is the best way. What is the best way of making sure that we deal with these things? I'm concerned, Chair, to say the least, as I'm submarining. I'm concerned that to date, there is no plan, there is no strategy, there is no framework to look into these things. I would have thought that by now we're going to look at it, and I propose that they must consider it. And if it has to be law, bring it to us. We take it to Parliament to be enacted as law. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Sokopo. I then move to the Honourable Skosana.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be brief, Chair. I know that it's very difficult, for policemen and women to be in our homes to prevent, this alarming statutory rape in the country. Understanding Major General Rabi gave us some stats, I'm not sure about the slides, but I think these reports from 2021, 2024. But what I've noticed that there's a lot of withdrawing of cases, in particular, KZN, in fact, that's where most problems we are having in this country when it comes to that. But I've noticed those withdrawals, my province in Mpumalanga, there's less in terms of provinces, but I'm not sure whether they are not reporting these matters to the police. But it's worrisome that there's a lot of withdrawals. I'm not sure what's the cause, but I guess that there's reasons why these withdrawals are so high. And as well, I think we need as well as parliamentarians and as political parties as well to make our people aware as well, and not just leave this thing to the police to resolve these problems. But once it's reported, obviously it becomes a police matter. But indeed, our society has to as well. Yeah, but for me, from where I'm sitting, I think we have to make sure that we do this our awareness and make sure that cases are not withdrawn because of fear and intimidation. But we must get to the bottom of it, of the cause of this withdrawals of these cases. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Skosana. The Honourable Shabane.
No, thank you, Chair. Good morning to honourable members. Chair, I think members have already made some of the important issues, and the reports does indicate positive work that has been put on the ground, but also that expose some of the weaknesses to the committee. I only have two issues, Chair, just to follow up on the matter that Honourable Skosana has raised, because that was also my concern in terms of the cases and the years that have been indicated. And I think Honourable Skosana could have taken it more further, that perhaps the team may need to elaborate more on the indicators that inform such withdrawals. It's important so that even when we take a responsibility as the arm of the state to contribute to the awareness around this subject matter, we are able to identify areas of weaknesses that this team might have raised with the committee. As it relates to the capacity within the system or the budget constraints within the systems, or is an area where victims have been intimidated to withdraw cases. So I think it's important that we do get a detailed analysis rather than percentages that have been given, so that we're able to identify ourselves with those challenges that have been faced with the system. The second one, Chair, is there's a highlight of the working closely with the CPF or stakeholders, churches, but this excludes traditional authorities. And this is an important stakeholder in our communities that may contribute to this highlight. In fact, most of the traditional authorities, if an opportunity in rural areas that you attend their forums, what you call the Khoro, they are raising these issues of statutory rape sharply. And the distance of the SSS, the police force collaborating with them is also concerning. And I wanted us to want the team to further elaborate more in relation to how are they working with the traditional authorities within our communities, and to make sure that these matters have been raised. Thirdly, what are the recurring challenges have emerged through the CSPS monitoring of the assessment of the work that has been done by the SACP and the compliance around this statutory rape? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Shabane. I have 3 or 4 just examples. There may be some questions amongst them of FCS-related issues. I just did over the last few weeks on usually on Mondays and here and there on a Friday, if the committee allowed, just went and literally checked in at some of the FCS units, especially around my constituency. And there are a few things that popped up that I want to indicate as as why I think FCS is under such extreme pressure, especially with these kinds of cases. Now, I'd like to start with the recent case in Atlantis. The case is currently or just kicked off in court, where an 11-year-old girl just a few weeks ago gave birth. It is alleged that her mother didn't know she was pregnant, and the perpetrator is obviously now still in custody, and the case is it seems that it will be tried at the Atlantis court, not far from Cape Town. Now, that's just a horrific case in itself. You then go and look at the capacity issues at FCS units, and I'd like to start with Khayelitsha FCS. When you look at Khayelitsha FCS, on paper, SAPS indicates that they should have about 43, 42 detectives. At the moment, they've got 20 detectives. Now, if you consider that, that's hardly 50% of what they should have. At Kuils River FCS, they have to serve, for example, Mfuleni and Mfuleni Satellite as well. We all know how quickly Mfuleni is growing. And they actually only have 8 investigators at the moment for FCS there. Nyanga FCS, only I think 2 or 3 out of 12 of their vehicles actually worked when we were there. Everything is either stuck in the garage or awaiting towing. And so I can go through the list. The point I'm trying to make is that this should form part of the so-called national disaster that GBVF has been declared, and I know it's a multi-departmental and not only a whole of government approach. It should be a whole of society approach. But just in terms of capacity building in the units that so desperately need the support, I think that's something where we as a committee can also zoom in on. For an FCS unit to be running with less than 20% of its vehicles, like at Nyanga FCS, it's physically impossible for those members to do the work they need to do. I went to Stellenbosch FCS the other day, and they had returned from trying to perform an arrest on a suspect at the very top end of Kayamandi, and they had to go there after all the rain with a little VW Polo. Now, we all know it's impossible to do the job that way, and I know it will never get everything perfect, but I think there's a general consensus after I've listened to all the different members and their input that we need a bit of a relook as to how we capacitate FCS and how we not only fast track but look at prioritizing the very serious cases in terms of processing of forensic evidence. With those comments, I would like to then hand over DM Boshielo, if you would do the honors of assisting in facilitating response between General Sentumule and DG Sibui. I think DM will be with us now. If I may go straight to General Sentumule. General, if you will provide response and facilitate response from SAPS, and then after that, I will go to DG Sibui. General Sentumule.
Oh, Chair, I was listening. I thought you were saying General Sentumule should go on and Comrade General Sibui. So I'm sorry.
No problem. That's fine, DM. No problem. General Sentumule, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to the honorable members to all their observations and questions. Before I give the team an opportunity to respond, I want to start with the question from Honorable Matthys that was raised earlier in relation to the issue of opening of cases. And I think I'm also going to juxtapose that with the question of Honorable Kola Barnett in relation to the withdrawal of cases. In terms of legislation, Honorable Matthys, any person is obliged by law to report any suspicion, even where they actually see that statutory rape was committed. They have a legal duty to report, and I think this is specified in the Children's Act 38 of 2005, specifically section 110. And moving forward on this specific matter, it is also a crime to fail to report. And this again is specified in law, specifically section 305 of the Children's Act. It makes it an offense for anyone who knows, suspects, or should reasonably suspect that a child is being sexually abused. And this places an obligation particularly on teachers, nurses, religious leaders, and family members, and it extends further to any other person outside of those people that I've mentioned who has reasonable suspicion. And this is prosecutable, meaning that if you don't report and you know, you can be convicted. And in this regard, you can be liable to even imprisonment of up to 10 years. I am going to make a plea and a request, Chairperson, to the committee that I don't think we prepared statistics where we actually did a data analysis of how many people have been charged who actually should have known and didn't report. So I'm going to request that maybe we submit a report to the committee in relation to how many people who would have been found to not have reported when they were supposed to. And this report can be given to the committee. In relation to the issue of the withdrawal of cases, Honorable Schickling, there are a number of reasons, and I think the colleagues will also come in here. And some of the reasons include the fact that some of the family members would opt for your alternative case resolution. And at times it's got to do with due influence in relation to financial dependence on the perpetrator. In some instances, there would be threats from the perpetrator. And in some instances, there will even be claims from the victim themselves that it was consensual. Also, the issue of underreporting, again, our analysis talks to some of the families and even some of the victims being afraid of facing stigma. Some families, particularly those high-profile families, are afraid to actually face shame. We deem this to be a significant crime for families to even think that this is a shameful crime. So we need to do more in terms of proactive issues of dealing with this type of crime, but also maybe workshop the issue of the reducing of barriers to reporting as per the CSPS policy. I want to also affirm that police officers are not legally allowed to let someone withdraw a case of sexual rape. Once a docket is open in this regard, it becomes a crime against the state, not just for the victim. And therefore, by law, no withdrawal by complainant of any rape, because it is a Schedule 2 offense, should be allowed. So those who withdraw such cases or are actually acting outside the law, and they should face consequence management, both departmentally as well as in terms of the law. There are issues raised in relation to DNA. We have been presenting over the years, Chairperson, in relation to our DNA backlog. I think we were able to eradicate the backlog that was built in 2021. And we were able to successfully eradicate that. However, with all our high density operations, and it's not an excuse, we are actually generating more cases. As a result, our infrastructure is currently strained. And you can see that in one of our laboratories in Arcadia, even the building itself is beginning to give up. That's why then we have opted for your forensic science laboratory expansion plan. And this plan is available and it can be given to the committee. But I can just safely say that the priority in that plan was the conclusion of the KwaZulu-Natal laboratory. And now we are putting our efforts in expanding through having a lab in Mpumalanga, is because of the proximity to Limpopo, where also we have got a high rate of your sexual offences. We already had discussions with both Public Works and the province, and the PC in Mpumalanga is championing the issue. We also have engaged with some of our business partners for collaboration in this regard. We also have engaged some of the private laboratories, particularly for standards and support. So these are discussions underway to ensure that at least by the end of this financial year, Mpumalanga will be up and running. We also are expanding to assist the volumes in Arcadia laboratory in Gauteng. We are planning to open a laboratory in the CSIR. The only hold, this is 90% completed as we reported before. However, because of a legal discussion between us and the CSIR, in terms of the offboarding of the sponsorship and moving forward, where the SAPS will now have to take over the leasing of the building together with Public Works. So that is where we are. And this discussion is just between our legal services, and we will provide feedback in this regard. But it is, and you say that by the 1st of September, your reference samples, which is our bulk of DNA or a backlog or cases that would have been completed outside the prescribed norms. So once we get CSIR, those will then be able to be expedited within the CSIR. We also have engaged one of our law enforcement partners to look at equipment that is up to date that also can assist us to expedite our analysis of reference sampling. And we are, I think we have an intended study tour where we are going to look at this equipment. They actually have undertaken to sponsor Mpumalanga with that type of equipment, as well as Arcadia, for us to be able to push those reference samples. General Mulauzi will talk more on the issue of DNA. Chairperson, coming to your issue of capacity within your forensic science environment, with the recent statistics after, during the release of the recent statistics and after the statistics, the acting minister and the acting national commissioner, they both championed the SAPS reset agenda, and the division, detectives and forensic services is a priority. And this is a continuation of our efforts building up from National Commissioner Masemula in terms of capacitating the detectives. We are actively engaged in aggressively capacitating the detectives. We received 4,000 new intakes, and I think of those, about 2.5 have already been absorbed. Unfortunately, in the process, we also lost almost 1,000 detectives due to retirement and other issues. So we are currently having 1,554 members of the new intake who are currently doing their workplace exposure. And in this regard, once they are offboarded from training, they will then be absorbed into detectives, and FCS also stands to benefit in terms of huge numbers from this initiative. We also have employed 278 re-enlistment detectives with only the sole responsibility of looking at backlog within your murder cases as well as your rape cases. There's been workshops with these members. We currently are also trying to deal with the issue of capacity in, sorry, sorry, Chair, in terms of non-human resources, which means the vehicles, the laptops and others. I'm sorry, I am in Mossel Bay and there's so much wind, so I suppose that I'm getting a bit of flu. Sorry about that, Chair. And in relation to the state of resources within your FCS, we recently did a study, and I think Northwest was the first province that we did a study on, where we discovered that the condition of the vehicles of FCS are actually way beyond your acceptable standards. In this regard, we engaged the provincial commissioner, who then gave us a plan in terms of the replacement strategy. And in that strategy, it also includes the procurement of new vehicles for FCS, but also absorbing more members into the environment. We did the same study with other provinces. However, we are engaging with the provincial commissioners in terms of receiving their plans. We received one from the Northwest, I think, as early as last week, and we are trying to really relook the conditions, not just of the vehicles, but also in the manner in which the members are working. I'm now going to hand over to first General Mamuteti from Visible Policing, and she will look at answering questions on proactive interventions on statutory rapes, and these includes the state and the capacitation of your victim-friendly facilities. General Mohale will then talk on your broader detective issues, and General Lekgele will cover FCS-specific matters. I'm also going to hand over to General Hankins, who will talk particularly on the issue of the availability of rape kits and challenges around the value chain of distribution and how Western Cape was the worst affected province in this regard. General Mulaudzi will then talk about our DNA project with the NPA, including statistics of how many of those would be statutory rape and turnaround times in terms of concluding such. I am going to end with General Nkua, who will also maybe hedge on the capacitation of the police and the challenges that we also raised in our sitting with the portfolio committee, as well as the portfolio committee on justice and security, where our fiscus is struggling, and also we are way beyond, below the norm of what our capacity should be. General Mamuteti will start and then followed by the other colleagues. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you very much, General, and good morning to the Chairperson and to the Honorable Portfolio Committee members, the Deputy Minister of Police, Dr. Bushielo, and all the colleagues that are on the platform. I will just talk to the issues around the protocols that talks to the GBVF. That will also include the statutory rape. As the government, we know that we have a disaster management on GBVF. From that structure, we have a NAT joint structure that has already prioritized this challenge, and we have a priority committee that is dealing with it. And in that regard, we have also identified the need to develop an interdepartmental protocol on the reporting of GBVF cases, that is also including the statutory rapes. So in that regard, we have already engaged with the Department of Health, and they have committed that they're going to formalize a program that will create awareness throughout the health department, that will talk to the health workers so that they can be able to understand the legislation that is talking to the statutory rape, so that they can be able to report where they are required to report. We are also having a basic education protocol where it was also prioritizing the gender-based violence cases that are happening at the school premises. In that regard, we also agree that we need to intensify the awareness programs so that the educators can also come on board and be able to report on such cases. In the same space, we have already identified the legislations that are having legislative frameworks that are having a challenge for us, like where there will be contradictions in terms of the age of the children. Example will be the Children Act that talks to the access to contraceptives from the age of 12, and the Marriage Act that talks to the parental consent under the age of 18. So those are the ones that we said we must prioritize so that we can be able to have an alignment on whatever that we're doing. The negligence of children cases and the children in conflict with law, we have statistics, but we are not readily available, which is not readily available. We'll be able to provide to the portfolio committee on the figures. The programs on social crime prevention, we have intensified programs in all the levels from stations up until national level, and we have targets that we have set in that regard. For each station, they have to do at least 20 programs per month, and we have made a lot of progress in that regard. For now, I will just request that we maybe submit such information in writing that will be able to identify what types of programs have we been engaging on in trying to address the social issues that are affecting also our children. The place of safety, yes, we are working very closely with Department of Social Development because they are responsible to manage that space. But normally with the cases of children which are supposed to be referred to the relevant places, we work with them and necessary documents are submitted and completed as such. But however, we have noted the issues that are raised by the Honorable James on the training of the members. They have been trained because we have a vulnerable children training program that was done in all the provinces and in all the stations. But however, because it's coming on and time and again, we have to intensify on that one. We'll monitor and ensure that there is compliance, and where there is a need for retraining, we liaise with HRD for retraining of those members. The traditional leaders, yes, they playing a very critical role as partners in building the safer community and strengthening the relationship between law enforcement agency and the community. In that regard, as the department, we have a traditional policing concept that has been developed, where we are working with the traditional leaders to ensure that we continuously share information. We also are able to create awarenesses and also facilitate the cooperation between the communities and the police. And I think those are the issues that were raised so far in terms of the questions that were raised. So I have the information on the children in conflict with conflict with law is 2,269, but we'll also provide the information in writing. Thank you very much,
Thank you, Chair. General Mohale.
Thank you, Jency, and good morning to the Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Members, and Honorable DM. Chairperson, I'm going to respond to the questions that were left out by the DNC, where I'm just going to fill the gaps, and my colleague, General Rikhele, will cover the rest of the issues that pertaining to the directly reflecting to the partnership and other issues. I'll start, Chairperson, with the comments. Okay, the comments made by the Chairperson in terms of the vehicles for FCS that are not actually matching the terrain. It has been noted, Chairperson, even though that was the vehicles that were bought, but we will definitely look into it in making sure that the vehicles that maybe are purchased will specify in terms of the terrains affecting those other areas. I'll go again to Honorable Chabane. In terms of the indicators of withdrawal, I think DNC has covered that one. We can provide that stats in terms of what were the reasons specifically for withdrawals in that numbers that we have alluded to. And then the traditional one, it has been spoken to by General Mamuteti just now. I'll go to the other one of the Honorable Skosana. Also, the withdrawal of cases that are high is the same with the one that I've spoken to of Honorable Chabani, is what will be attended to in terms of us giving feedback, written feedback in that regard. Chairperson, the other question that was raised by the Honorable Sukopo in terms of family struggling to report because perpetrators are breadwinners, and those are other reasons, Chairperson, that really affect the reporting that we, as alluded by the committee, we'll look into it to make sure that how do we really come in terms of intensifying those measures. But as alluded by Honorable Sukopo, this is issues that are happening within families also, whereby, as alluded, people will fail to report or struggle to report because the person that is actually providing for them is the one that is a perpetrator in that regard. Now, Chairperson, in terms of the issue mentioned by Honorable Shekeling, the victimization of members, Chair, that one also will have to look into it because remember it has happened at a precinct or station X where the honorable member might have more information than what we have. So one will have to look into it in terms of what is happening and follow it up and give a feedback into those members that the honorable member saying they were victimized. And Chairperson, the other issue in terms of the standby of detectives, of FCS members. That issue, honorable member, yes, it's true that we have members on standby, but how the standby works, the honorable members will know that cases are not reported at the FCS units. The units are standalone offices where members are operating from, but cases are registered at the police stations. So the members, in terms of any member of any case that is reported at the police station, there is that channel that is made that a member will be called a chairperson to attend to that matter, and that member will be attended as per member's mandate and the training that the member has got. So FCS, yes, there will be standby for that particular cases that are coming, and they will be contacted as and when they are needed to the police station for the duration of the weekend. And I must say, Chairperson, that those cases that are reported, members are called, and those cases are given attention in that regard. The other question that I think this one, my colleague will respond to it in terms of the backlog when he's coming to speak, General Mlaudzi. The other one of the FCS unit capacitated to 97% by Honorable Shekeling. Chairperson, that one also, I think General Sintumula has spoken to it. This is in terms of the members that we have now and according to the ideal and the numbers that we have. But as he has already alluded to the numbers that were given, will ensure that the members that are allocated to FCS actually strengthen that numbers that we have to make sure that they are capacitated accordingly also in terms of the resources. And the standby that has been or is done by the members is a system that was put in place to cover those cases that comes after hours and all that. But as members have alluded to, is a system that one can also look into in terms of how best can we put it. But at the moment, as a standby system, we are making sure that it really works and those cases are attended to. The J88 documents, Chair, that are in hospital. Chair will remember that the J88 form is a form that as and when an incident happens, you go to the doctor and the doctor is, after examining the patient, he or she will write and provide a form. But now, the norm that we've seen is that they will leave the forms to complete them at a later stage due to them attending to other matters. That is why the forms are lying there, but we'll close that gap, Chair, in terms of the seriousness and the manner in which those forms are needed to close the gap in making sure that we don't have a gap in terms of those forms remaining behind. The other one is this one was mentioned by Honorable Mateis, that actually one felt that it should be responded to. Chair, the issue that was mentioned by Honorable Mateis to say when a person has died, and I think the reporting line in terms of that. Chair, we have to draw a line in terms of state cases. A murder and an inquest is a state case. It's where when it's reported, a policeman comes on the scene and be a complainant in that case. So normally we classify that as state case. So in state cases like your murder and your inquest, it's where now the police come and report the case and take what you call. But in these other cases, Chair, as the Act is giving provision to any person can report that matter as a complainant, but the minor becomes the victim. It's not the other way around where the victim becomes the complainant. So the victim who is a minor remains a victim, and the complainant becomes any person who reports on behalf of that particular minor. And the other one, Chair, also is in terms of the ADR, the alternative dispute resolution of those cases. General Sintumula has touched on that. That we can also provide information in writing should it so be required so as we can give you a comprehensive report in that regard. And the mandatory reporting was touched on. The analysis, General Mrauji will come on that. And then the offices there of the FCS I've spoken to, the point raised by Honorable Meshwe in terms of offices closing weekend. That is the system that I'm saying. The offices of the FCS is where they are operating from, but cases are reported in the police station and standby members attend to that cases as and when it's involved. I think I've covered almost all of those that I'm supposed to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. General Lekgele, over to you. Chairperson, may I take General Mulaudzi as I try to locate her on the platform?
Yes, please, General. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. General Mulaudzi, you can take the floor.
Thank you very much, DNC. Greetings to the Chairperson, honorable members, DM, and my colleagues. From our side, Chair, the cases of GBVF are priority for our environment. The moment they come to our space, we prioritize them, but we also have a very good working relationship with NPA, where if they realize that they don't have a report in their cases, they're able to call us and then we provide the report. Just to add, just looking at last financial year alone, Chair, we provided NPA with 7,182 forensic reports that are specifically linked to the GBVF. But those cases were enrolled successfully. But coming to the issues of the statutory rape, Chair, in the last financial year alone, of that 7,000, we have finalized 1,573 cases for DNA analysis. And then we carry over from that particular financial year to this financial year, 472 cases that actually they were still in process. Of that 772, combined with what we have received in this financial year, Chair, we have already finalized 192 cases. And what we have on hand as we speak, it's only 561, because in these past 2 months, Chair, we received 469 cases that are linked to the statutory rape. That's actually our rape together with the murder of children. So that's where we are at the moment. Majority of these cases that we have, which is 561 that are in process. They are all in process, and every day we are issuing reports to our colleagues so that they can proceed with the work that they are doing. So in this space, Chair, when we receive the case, we give it 14 working days, and then that case is finalized. It's the same principle that we use for identification of human remains so that the family can get the closure. So that's where we are as a laboratory when it comes to this matter, Chair. I submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. General Mulaudzi, before you go off the platform, can I also ask that you cover the issue of or the question of Honorable Sheckling around the status of DNA backlog within our laboratories? Thank you, Chair.
presently, when it comes to the statutory rape and the GBVF related cases, especially statutory rape, we don't have any backlog when it comes to that. We have, like I indicated, we have a total of around 500 and 61 cases that are on hand as of yesterday. And then when we come to the issues where we are having backlogs on is on our RIs. At the moment, our system, Chair, from Western Cape and Pretoria, we can process we can process 30,000 in a month. But in some cases, we also go as far as 35,000, depending on the maintenance programs. Chair, this area is the one that is affected by our shanyelas and other work that needs to be done. At the present moment, Chair, we have also far finalized almost 70,000 of those cases, and we still have around Chair, around we still have around 200 of the RI samples that are in process, even though I can assure the meeting that we have almost 78,000 that are in process. We, in this case, we only have two systems, that's in Pretoria and Western Cape. The KZN laboratory, when the new equipment are procured, it will take an extra 20,000. But from time to time, this is the one area that we are monitoring. When it comes to the crime samples, Chair, averagely we are carrying 33,000, and we with a total of around 20,000 that are already in process. So on daily, we are monitoring these cases for the finalization, so that we don't find ourselves going back to before 2021, 2022 financial year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. In addition, I also want to say to the committee that we have developed a 10-point plan that is integrated to actually deal with the issues of backlog or cases which would have been outside their span of delivery for FSL. Chair, on that note, let me hand over to General Hankins, who will then talk about the issue of the rape kits as well as buccal samples. General Hankins, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Greetings to yourself, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable members, Deputy Minister, Lieutenant Generals on the platform, all colleagues. Chairperson, I can indicate the rape kits, the D1 and the D7 rape kits, which is for adults and children, has been distributed by Division Supply Chain Management to all provincial supply chain management officers, Chair. It is at that point where the kits are then redistributed to the different FCS units as well as to the police stations that require the stock. Chair, I can maybe just indicate that we are at the end of our 3-year contract, Chair. So when we put a contract in place, the kits do come with an expiry date. Chair, I know there has been a concern that there seems to be very limited D1 and D7s at FCS units as well as stations. Chair, I think it is just for us to manage the expiry date. The expiry date of the current kits is the 1st of August. We are currently then in the process of putting a new procurement vehicle in place, Chair, where we will ensure the procurement of D1 and D7 kits, and which will be distributed to all the end users before the expiry date. Chair, with regards to the DB samples as well, I can indicate that 100% of all the requirements that came from the police stations for the previous financial year was delivered to them. Chair, I can also add that we are at the beginning of the new financial year, so our procurement process of procuring the DB kits, the D1 and the D7 will be activated as I indicated and will be distributed. Chair, I can maybe also just bring comfort that our first batch of DB kits will be delivered to Division Supply Chain Management on the 19th of June. and then we will ensure distribution further to all the provinces. So, Chair, just to indicate that there is currently no shortage of D1 and D7 as well as buccal samples. Chair, what we are also monitoring is that the provinces do distribution to the different FCS units and stations, and then we are also requesting that they do redistribution within the provinces to ensure that if there is a shortage at one station and a surplus at one station, that this is redistributed just so that we manage the issue of expired dates to curb fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And Chair, can I maybe just add as well from Division Supply Chain Management that we have a 5-year plan, Chair, that we will kickstart again in this financial year, where we will be placing victim-friendly facilities on the outstanding police stations that still require facilities, Chair. So we do have a 5-year plan. We do have the names of the police stations that have been identified for the placement of the victim-friendly facilities, Chair. So we will also be rolling out our 5-year plan. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. General Nkhuwa will then talk about the capacitation of the SAPS in general, including the detective services. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, General Sentimule. Good morning to you, Chairperson, and to all the honorable members, and also greetings to the Deputy Minister of Police, the DG Sibuyi, and General Sentimule, the leader of the delegation, and all my colleagues in the platform. Chairperson, with regard to capacitation of the FCS units, I must indicate that every year, whenever we receive, an opportunity to advertise or to fill vacancies, we always prioritize forensic services, in particular FCS units, as well as, the recruitment of the forensic social workers. I know that Mayor Diana also asked as to whether do we have enough forensic social workers, and the answer is no. We can never have enough forensic social workers, considering the magnitude of the services that forensic social workers are expected to render to the communities. I know that the presentation indicated that in as far as HR capacity is concerned, we are standing at about 95%, which the chairperson indicated that from his visits to the stations, that is not the true picture. But I can indicate, Chairperson, that when we do our calculations in as far as our level of capacity, we measure it against the funded fixed establishment. On the funded fixed establishment, we can say safely we are trying our level best to capacitate the FCS units. But when we look at the bigger picture, the ideal numbers, we are not where we want to be. It's not only within the FCS units, but in the SAPS in general. Our ideal figures requires quite a lot of money in order for us to be able to fully police South Africa. But when you look at our FE, we are doing our level best. I think last time when we presented, we indicated that against our FE, we're having a shortage of about 6,600 police officers, of which we also indicated that this year we'll be recruiting about 11,000. To a certain extent, that 11,000 will take us just a little bit over our funded fixed establishment. But our ideal figure, Chairperson, we need new money so that we can have enough to cover the entire organization. General Sentimule also touched a little bit in terms of what we allocated to the detectives in the previous financial year, which is the 4,000, and they're still finalizing that project, but they have made some strides in terms of recruiting those officials. And I can also indicate, Chairperson, that 2 weeks ago, I presented to the EXCO our plan, our staffing plan for the current financial year, and the EXCO did approve the staffing plan. And I must also indicate that in the staffing plan for the current financial year, we have made some allocations for the FCS units as well as for the forensic social workers. As we always do each year, we ring fence, we give dedicated capacity to the FCS units as well as to the forensic social workers. I think that is all from my side, Chairperson, in as far as capacity in general is concerned. Thank you very much, General Sentimule.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I'm going to ask General Rabi to also touch on a question by Honorable Chickling that talks to the key indicators within FCS that would also include your statutory rape cases. General Rabi, over to you.
Honourable Chairperson, thank you. The Chairperson, currently in terms of the APP of the department, we have quite an extensive range of indicators. We are currently standing at 125 that we are reporting on. And included in that are two indicators that relates to children. The one is crimes reported, and we specifically focus on selected contact crimes like murder, rape, sexual offences, etc. And then in program 3, we have for the same crime category for children, we are monitoring the detection rate. So at this point in time, we do not have an explicit indicator on, or indicators both from a preventative or a investigative perspective. We do not have explicit indicators on statutory rape. And with the agreement of the committee, what we will do is we will explore the viability of including such an indicator. And because we are required to go through a process of testing the data and then making sure that the data is valid, and then the calculations, etc. We will explore that option, and we will then see when we meet with the committee again, let's say after the end of the first quarter, if by that point we will be able to report back to the committee that we've done our research and this is how we're going to address it, and then include it as an additional reporting indicator on our quarterly performance. And normally we will then require this to go through the financial year, the testing and making sure that it's valid, and then officially include it in the next APP for the period 27-28, if the committee agrees to that proposal. Thank you, Honourable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Honourable Chair, General Rabi is asking a question of whether you agree that we give a report later before I proceed. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you, General.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think in concluding our submission or responses, I also want to touch on questions asked by Honourable James. I think there's two specifically that I thought were not answered. One relates to the places of safety for victims of sexual assault. In this regard, Honourable James, we do work with a number of entities that will deal with the victims of sexual assault and domestic violence in general. We know that we have got TTCs throughout the country, which are your one-stop center, where you find all relevant specialists sitting in one environment, and they will be able to process as well as record your sexual assault or GBV cases. But also we have a number of victim empowerment shelters, which are managed by NGOs and funded by DSD. I just want to cite a few. We've got POA in Gauteng, we've got Masinyane in the shelter in the Eastern Cape, we've got Tusanang in Free State, and Durban Ika shelter, and that is in KwaZulu-Natal. But we have got more that we work with, and we refer victims of domestic violence who will require the place of safety at the time. In relation to Lendighier intervention, I want to say, Chairperson, and make a request that we engage with the Western Cape Provincial Commissioner, where we can receive a factual report and compile a report with the NASCOM signature, and that report will be done in writing, and it will include all the issues raised by Honourable James, including those members who were charged, departmentally. Thank you, Chair. And I think lastly, in relation to Honourable Sokopo's observation that 70% of rape cases or rape incidents takes place in the homes of the victims and perpetrator. Honourable Sokopo, our submission is that this then specifies and strengthens the need for a whole of government approach, which will place the community and community leaders, particularly religious community leaders, at the center of us being proactive in dealing with the rape in our communities. Chairperson, I submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General. I have 2 or 3 questions of clarity. I would also like to invite the members if there are questions of clarity. My first one is just in terms of the rape kit distribution in the Western Cape specifically. Something that seems to be unique in the Western Cape province is that when we visited the supply chain management provision store in Epping, they do not control stock of D1, D7 rape kits or DB, the buccal swab DNA kits. And it was explained to us, and also when we visited national SEM, it was explained that SEM National does send the rape kits to the Western Cape, and so to the DB kits. But now those kits are then picked up by the provincial office, the PC's office, from the provisioning stores, and the distribution of those kits are then controlled from there. Now, I'm sorry for getting technical, but and by the way, I know you wouldn't have been able to prepare an answer for this. I'm mentioning this to indicate to you the problem we've picked up. I've already written a letter. I must still send it regarding this, but this is important to understand where things are being held up. So then I went and checked what are the actual numbers of the kits that are needed by the units to do their work, FCS specifically, and what are they getting? Because according to the needs analysis given to national SEM, they have provided those kits to the provinces. So then I went and checked in the Western Cape, as an example, do they actually get what they have asked for on ground level? So national sends what is requested, but then somewhere between provincial management in the Western Cape and ground level, something goes wrong. Let me give you an example. I've got some of the numbers. It's going to take a long time, so I'm just going to use 1 or 2 examples. When we look at Nyanga FCS, they have to serve Athlone, Gugulethu, Lansdowne, Manenberg, Nyanga, Philippi East, Samora, Michelle. Their needs analysis is 360 D1 sexual assault kits. They only have on hand just over 100. Now, it could be that, because this is for the 2026-2027 financial year, so it could be that, as General Hankins indicated, we're still awaiting the new stock to be delivered for the financial year. But I want to understand why this distribution is done in such a way. Why does it go to the PC's office? Why is it not distributed, as with all of the other different things, to go to the unit? So that's the one question. The second one is the wrong allocation of cases to FCS detectives. We expect FCS to do a certain job, yet they are being assigned cases that aren't within their mandate. We visited Worcester FCS about a week or 2 ago. They are being assigned cases of common assault and in some cases murders and assault GBH cases that aren't actually within their framework or mandate, doesn't suit that mandate. So that's the second question. How do we ensure that doesn't happen? And then in terms of the DNA backlog, to General Mulaudzi. General, can you indicate to us what the actual backlog is at the moment? Like, if you had to give me in one sentence, how many cases are we behind? The reason I asked this is after your answer now, I went and checked the report from the DNA board that we received just over a week ago. They said to us, and I quote, they said 502,000, more or less, registered exhibits that was a total exhibits. 358,000 were completed. And then they say only 3.5% of buccal samples were completed within 30 days. And just over 175,000 DNA entries exceeded prescribed timelines by year end. So you say just over 70,000 that are still being processed. Is that over 70,000 the DNA backlog at the moment? Does it include all cases that have been registered for processing, or does it does it include cases that are still awaiting to be submitted for processing? Give us a better idea of that, because to be brutally honest, I think the DNA backlog is likely far worse than what we're realizing, because if I look at the DNA board's report and what you have described to us, the two don't speak to each other. That's it from me. Honourable Schikkerling.
Thank you, Chairperson. You've covered me partially. I would just like to know, we all know that there are police officers that are complicit in closing cases or assisting people not to investigate cases of sexual assault further. Can you please tell me how many cases have been opened against police officers that have been found guilty of not assisting members or victims when they come and open cases, including children? Then I would just like to say you covered me with General Mauluti, because I don't think that figure is absolutely correct. We keep hearing about the KwaZulu-Natal lab that is open, but there is no the amount of cases that are still outstanding is increasing and it's not decreasing. And then my question around the FCS that's on standby over a weekend. Now, most of the FCS units only have probably 2 officers that are on standby over a weekend, but you have your full complement during the week, 12, 15, 18 officers, but 2 are on standby over a week at most on a weekend. Now, we have more cases opened over weekends, and FCS stretches across several police stations, not only one. So the victims wait for a long time to be assisted. Surely you should make a plan to say, okay, our need assessment is that we need more people over a weekend than what we do in the week, because FCS doesn't only deal with sexual assault cases. They deal with common assault, they deal with domestic violence, they deal with assault, GBH, they deal with bullying. There's a lot of other things that they deal with, but yet FCS is on standby over a weekend. It doesn't make sense to me. And then I want to tell the General, I understand that J88 forms is a health document. It's got nothing to do with the police, but the detectives do not go back to go and fetch the J88s, which is outstanding in numerous dockets across South Africa. Why are we not taking action against them for not going to go collect these forms? And secondly, it's a twofold situation. A lot of doctors do not complete the J88 forms in time. What interaction have you had with the Department of Health to ensure that they actually do what they're supposed to do? And then, Chair, my last question is about the stats. We know that there's no indicators, because every time the stats come out for the country, it's missing crimes against women and children. And we used to have it, and now it's just suddenly, since 2024, these stats have disappeared. They're no longer in the system. So we know that there are no indicators. My concern, though, is how sure are we then that the rest of the statistics are credible, because there's no proper indicators built into the system? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Schikkerling. I haven't seen any other hands. If they do come up, I'll give an opportunity. General Sentamule.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. General Hankins will respond to your question in relation to rape kits and buccal samples. In relation to your question on the wrong allocation of cases particularly, outside the mandate of FCS. Chairperson, I think at national, we were not aware of this practice. However, I think this is business unusual. I think we will engage the province with a full report just to clarify, how that happened, bearing in mind the overloadedness of the FCS, particularly in lieu of your lack of human capacity. Thank you, Chair. And then the third one, General Mulaudzi will then respond again in relation to DNA backlog. I can also touch on the one of Honorable Shekling that talks to the complicity of our members in not opening or actually manipulating cases at a station level. Can I ask that we do have a mechanism within HR and detectives where we look at such cases? Can I then ask that we provide a report to the committee in writing? In relation to Honorable Shekling, FCS on standby during weekends, I would actually like to refer to National Instruction 2 of 2014 that says, much as we have standby, Honorable Shekling, it doesn't take away the responsibility of us ensuring that we respond on time in dealing with your FCS cases. Maybe I will answer this also, covering, I think I forgot to answer Honorable James on the FCS response time. The policy specifies that we have to respond immediately when there is a case of GBV or child cases, and there is no excuse for FCS delays. If there are no members available, the station commander must assign a trained member immediately, who will then become a first responder. We do have a checklist in terms of responses from the FCS unit where they specify the issues of their response, and therefore in essence we are saying that standby doesn't necessarily have to affect our ability. Also within your FCS, when we say 24/7, it means that within any shift there should be a trained FCS investigator and social forensic social worker who also have to be available even outside your normal office hours. And this talks to us having to ensure that the evidence as well as your recovery happens within the prescribed 72 hours. General Mokhale will then talk to the issue of J88. I will hand over to General Hankins to then answer on your buccal samples as well as your rape kits, and then General Mulauzi will follow on the DNA backlog. General Mokhale will elaborate on J88. Chairperson, in that order, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I can maybe indicate the issue of the Western Cape, Chair. Firstly, to indicate that the Epping store is an extension of our provisioning store, Chair. I think we are fortunate that we have the facility in the Western Cape. So, Chair, that helps us to send bulk store or stock to the Western Cape that is then further distributed to the province. Chairperson, I think the process that is now being undertaken by the province, where it is going to the provincial supply chain management, Chair, it's the reason is that when we receive a need, we receive a consolidated need from a province, Chair. So the province will have the detail of the quantity of D1, D7, all evidence collection kits that is required per police station or per FCS units, Chair. Then the need is then captured on the provisioning administration system that activates then the distribution of those kits. But Chair, we have taken note of the concern that is being raised for the Western Cape. Chair, if you will allow me, we will just have to go to the Western Cape and find out what is frustrating the process, Chair. If it will work better that we keep the bulk store at Epping store and then distribute from Epping store as a point, Chair, we won't have a problem. However, the detail of the distribution per police station, per the forensic officers, does come from the province. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks, General Hanku. General Mulaudzi.
Thank you, Chair. The data that you presented now, Chair, is correct. It's 2024-2025 financial year, where we indicated how much we have received. The receivable for that particular and registered for that particular year, Chair, it was 502,407. And as an environment, we managed to finalize 358,684. And we had some carry over to 2025-2026 because the DNA board report was just reporting the financial year 2024-2025. But in 2025-2026, Chair, we, apart from what we have carried over from 2024-2025, we received 399 and 38,000 case entries. And then out of that, together with what we have carried over from the previous financial year, as an environment, we managed to increase our output, our finalization rate. Our finalization rate was 407,832. Is the space that Chair, at the present moment, committee doesn't have, because the DNA report was talking to the 2024-2025. What we have carried over from 2026 to 2020, from 2025-2026, it was 232,697. That's everything that we had, that we carried over to the new financial year. In the new financial year, Chair, which is from April until end of May, so far we have already received 36,003 case entries, and in 2 months we have already finalized. That's where the 75 that I was talking about is coming from. So far for the past 2 months, as biology, we have finalized 75,024 case entries, and already over 4,212 were issued. When we that's basically what we have carried over and what we have received. But when we look at entries that are exceeding our timelines that we have set, we categorize them because we need to prioritize case entries that actually have a suspect on, so that we can actually issue a report, and then the justice is served. So on that, we have buccal samples that are coming from different operations. Some of them, they include the prison project that are coming to our space. In that space, we have 287 buccals that actually are outside our timelines that actually we need to analyze, as our system, like I indicated, can take 30 to 35,000 at the present moment. And that's why we are looking forward to the KZN laboratory that will take an additional 20,000 when we have set up the DNA system. That process is with Treasury, and then contract onboardment, we are expecting that to happen in August. And then also to activate the suppliers that are going to be contracted to deliver the equipment, and then we set it up with the hope of that will be running somewhere in November, December. Chair, the crime samples that are outside the timelines as we speak now, we have 33,011. These are the samples that actually are coming from the crime scenes. Some of them, yes, they don't have a reference because the police are still looking for the suspect, but we analyze all of those so that we can provide the intelligence also when it comes to that. So that's basically where we are today. As of the end of May, that's the number of entries that we have. We are going to finalize every month from now, moving forward until KZN. Our target is to finalize 30 to 35 case entries per month. So that's our commitment to the committee. Thank you, Chair. That's our response. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Yanan Mulauzi. Thank you, Chair. I want to attempt and actually answer Honorable Shukeling's question on the J88. And maybe highlighting the significance of why that timing is critical. For example, the issue of your evidence loss, the issue of your PEP window, which talks to the exposure to HIV and other STIs, but also the probability of your conviction being low based on this particular delay. I want to make a plea, Honorable Shukeling. I've noted some of the reasons why there could be a delay, and some of those would include, for example, your transport delay. Sometimes I think the doctors have to wait for FCS or the investigator. Maybe that we relook at the issue and look at the challenges as raised by yourself and provide a committee with a report on the remedial steps we are going to take to prevent such, because it does definitely affect our conviction at the end of the day. Thank you, Chair. I submit.
Thank you very much, General. May I ask DG Sabui if there are any points that you would like to add from the Secretariat's point of view?
Thanks, Chair. Chair, just to confirm that the acting National Commissioner has made an undertaking to put up a plan based on our findings in relation to the rape kits. That we have seen that the distribution to provinces is good. However, the further distribution to police stations, that's where we have the biggest problem. Therefore, we have recommended that be strengthened and enhanced, and accountability by provincial commissioners and all those involved in the value chain be strengthened around the issues. There are also other variables in relation to this matter. For instance, it's Oseng in the Northwest. They deliver rape kits from, they store them from the main station, and it's very far between the main station and it's Oseng, and it takes time for them to be there, and there's lack of vehicles. So those are other variables that we have noted, and the acting National Commissioner has taken note of that and promised that the plan will be developed and will monitor the implementation of that plan for sufficiency of the kits in various stations. But we do upload SAPS for making sure that kits are available in various provinces at provincial level. The capacity of detectives, it's a problem. We know that it's a matter raised, and there is a plan to capacitate detectives, and we are monitoring that plan. We have requested timelines, but because if we don't attend to this matter, we will be heading for a disaster. Just to also go back, it's not just the numbers, it's also the working conditions of detectives as well. In the same police station I was speaking about, we have also realized that there's cramping of detectives where they're working from an RDP house, which we are awaiting reports in terms of how that has happened in the same station. So that's the matter, and we're monitoring the issue around it. Chair, on the issue of undetected and withdrawn cases, Civilian Secretariat in the Eastern Cape undertook a project in 24-25 financial year, just on the, and we call it a court watch brief. Based on that experience, we have extended the project throughout the country for Civilian Secretariat to include it in their APPs throughout the country, just to look at the numbers and the reasons and so that we are able to be specific in terms of each and every case that has been withdrawn or case that is recorded as undetected. to see what are the reasons. And that information, I think, we'll be able to provide it. Based on that experience, because those that are undetected and Civilian Secretariat had made recommendations, some of them were re-enrolled without new information, and we have seen successful prosecution, even in those particular cases. Then it begged the question why they were withdrawn in the first place, and so forth. So we will provide written information around it. In terms of our slide 6, I think it was jumped by an error when the presentation was made. In slide 6, you will see that there's information, especially emanating from the National Working Committee. Therefore, in that slide, you will realize that there are issues around JADA, there are issues around deliveries and so forth that are coming out in our National Working Committee meeting. And we are putting a plan in relation to this particular matter. Maybe what we need to do, Chair, as per the recommendation of this committee, we start disaggregating the information properly in terms of what appears in various dockets, whether it talks to child rape specifically or not, so that we are able to monitor that. I think that is very important. We have, Chair, based on our capacity constraint, not have been monitoring specialized units. In our last discussion at EXCO, we decided that we're going to form a team that will look at specialized units in terms of the M&E work around it, and we will probably be able to report going forward. We will look at this specifically as one of them that we'll start with in this current financial year. Classification, I'll ask Mr. Amaru to quickly speak to that. It's based on a number of reasons, and I think we will be able to deal with those reasons for going forward. On the issue around the policy framework, Chair, correct. What we have been doing, because SAPS and Department of Health and Education, together with a protocol agreement, safety protocol agreement that have been signed, SAPS has got a national instruction on the matter. So we're dealing with this matter based on the national instruction, as well as protocols by the Department of Health and the Department of Education. But correct, Chair, that we may have to consider, or we will consider, not may have, we will consider developing a policy framework around this matter going forward, Chair. If I've left something, I think those were just the few that were directed at us in going forward. But let me hand over to DDG Ramaro if there's anything. DDG Ramaro.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Members, Honorable DM, DG, and General Sintumole and colleagues. Maybe the only issue that I will comment on is about where we spoke about a difference in terms of recording. So in the main, what we're referring to, it's in a case where you find that in the docket, maybe a case is reported as sexual assault. But when you go to the system, you find that it is now recorded as a rape. And what we are observing is before they finalize the recording in the system, there is an evaluation or an assessment to determine what is the actual case that needs to be recorded, and they record the correct one. So which says is a gap that needs to be closed specifically in terms of training those who now open the dockets. So the final product will be the correct product or the correct classification, whereas what will have been done initially has some gaps there where maybe incorrect classification were made. So that's what we were referring to, which we have brought to the attention to the relevant managers when we have identified for them to be able to address. Thanks, Chairperson.
Acting DDG Omar.
Thank you very much, DG. Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Members, DM, and the senior managers. DG has covered me mostly on the slide 6, and I'm glad it's still on the screen. So we've started this National Working Committee since April 2024. We meet quarterly. So the process is integrated. So we have the right departments sitting around the table. And the issue of statutory rape did come up last year, Chair. Chair, the figures are very concerning. If you look at the figures on the slide, and basic education, for example, are working on an action plan based on the discussions we have at the National Working Committee. But Chair, I have to highlight that the issue of prevention and addressing the root causes of crime must not be underestimated. I know this is the Portfolio Committee on Police, and every time SAPS comes, it's always going to be the issue of resources because there's 2 million crimes in the country. The issue of crimes are going to go up. Resources are always going to be a challenge. But we must not underestimate, Chair, the issues surrounding the psychosocial issues, the fractured family structures, those critical issues. And I had my CAB memo open just now and I don't see it anymore. So the critical issues that have been coming up time and time again. So, Chair, the protective factors such as parents' attitudes towards childbearing, child rearing, stimulating learning environment, these are coming up all the time in our meetings. So basic education will tell us, for example, they go together with Home Affairs or one of the other departments to the ground. These are the national departments I'm talking about, and they put in place interventions. And when they leave, the interventions are not sustainable. Now, the other issues that are coming up are adult role model, supervision of children, the trauma of fractured family structures, the psychosocial development challenges, Chair. So what I'm saying is that while we're looking at the policing and the reactive approaches, we must keep in mind the preventative issues and addressing the root causes of these this violence that communities are experiencing. And the National Working Committee is actually, we're really concerned about what is coming up, Chair, because it can't always be a focus on policing. It has to be a focus on prevention and addressing the root causes. I'm repeating myself because this is such an important issue for us. But Chair, maybe one day we will come and present to you what we are doing in terms of the National Working Committee and how this is going. Thank you, Chair and DG.
Thank you. Mema Tangu.
DG, I think all the matters have been answered. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Can I hand over back to you, Chair? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DG. Colleagues, I think I just want to double check. I haven't seen any additional hands. If I may ask whether DM Dr. Boshielo has anything to add.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, we have been noting all your concerns, and I think they're going to enrich us as far as dealing with this sketch. We are as concerned as you are, and I think your suggestions are going to assist. And next time when we come to report, it will be a better picture. But also on the other side, when we're talking about the samples going to the provincial office, is the issue of the expiry date. If we take in a lot, then many people don't come. They then expire, and then that will be, we'll call a wasteful expenditure, something like that. But at all times, we try to be ready. I went to Duzela Center in Mankweng, which is situated in Mankweng Hospital. And I said then, ask them if they get any cooperation from our police, if they want samples and everything. And they were quick to say every time they want samples, the police from Mankweng bring them. They also showed me what they have on hand and said they never even suffer about that. But that might not be the case, like you have said, in the Western Cape, but also in the rural area. So we'll continue to monitor the issue and make sure that our children are not made to be adults when they're meant to be protected and be children. Thank you very much, Chair. And thanks to my colleagues for the presentations and the answers that you tried to help. It's not an easy job, but we'll try our best. I don't want to talk about the budget because you know, Chair, we have a problem with a budget, but we cannot let the budget stop us from servicing our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DM. I'm going to use the opportunity then to conclude. Thank you for all the input this morning. Thank you to you, DM Bushielo, to General Sintumule and General Rabi for the presentation, DG Sabui and the team from CSPS for your presentation and input. And I know it is especially on this specific topic, there are so many different departments that could and do already play a critical role in attempting to combat this. It is not easy to then answer, because I think sometimes you might have to answer on behalf of someone else or for something that may not necessarily be your mandate. We will work on a relevant report, and possibly there may be further questions. I would like to just note, in terms of the specific questions on length here, I would like to advise the Honourable James that it would be good to, and you're welcome to share it through us or write directly to the Ministry or the National Commissioner's Office, is to write the specific questions, and you can directly follow it up to ensure that there's no delay in going through all the different levels or waiting for the committee alone. With that, colleagues, I would like to conclude the meeting. I know there's a plenary this afternoon as well, so the meeting is closed. Thank you.
Thank you,
Chairperson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.